Hi, everyone. Welcome to Great and Good News on this beautiful Tuesday afternoon. It's just a little afternoon. Jeff is not with me today. Jeff is traveling. So we hope Jeff has a good time and enjoys every second of being away. It is a nice run of few days we've had here, and hopefully that will continue, although I do think some storms are coming. Today's show is going to be a little bit different. Want to thank you for being here as always and for weighing in on our topics of discussion. Today's show is going to be pretty singular in nature, I guess you could say, in that I really want to share with you what's going on with the Hannah Dillard case. For those of you who haven't heard about the Hannah Dillard case or know too much about it, other than just knowing that we pursued it and are trying to right what is a fundamental wrong in our judicial system here in Ellis County. We're gonna explore some things that I hope enlighten you to what I think are some real dangers here in our own community. Before we get to that, we'll do our regular little shtick, as it were. I want to tell you that Grit and Good News is also on Substack.com. When you go to Substack.com, spell it just the way it sounds. You can search for Grit and Good News. Use the ampersand as you see behind me, and you will find us there for $5 a month. You get a boatload of content that we have provided. That some of what we've written, some of our videos of the show, uh, some input and some content that Sammy has provided. We will be adding. We got to do that starting either next Monday or this Friday. But Sammy's started a new column series that will just continue to run called The Game Within. It's all about sports. It appears in the Waxahachie Sun, but we'll also have it appear here with the Grit and Good News subscription. So for $5 a month, you get a lot of stuff written by yours truly and my partners Jeff and Sammy. So with that, we do every show. This is our 130. Hey Terry, how are you, bud? This is our 130, 140th episode. So Sammy takes the 40 out of the 140 and says, "What great athletes are not great? I guess some of them are average, but well-known athletes that we all remember them wearing a certain number, jersey number. We remember them for that." So Sammy does starts with football first. These are pro athletes: football, baseball, hockey, and basketball. So hockey, I mean, what football?
Start with
Football.
NFL.
Gale Sayers. See on there?
I don't have
I think
him.
he may have won 41. I can't really remember, but all right, who do you have?
I have three. I have Mike Haynes
Okay.
for cornerback for the Patriots. I got Mike Alstott,
Yeah, big
a
stud. He
Bucks.
was on the front of one of those games you used to play.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Madden or something.
Oh, okay. And then we got our own Hunter Lupke.
Our
Lepke.
own. Plays for the Cowboys? Oh,
Lipke. You know him?
no, I don't
Number
think
40.
so.
You know him? He might
No,
be
but
our
the way you
fullback.
pronounce words, who the heck knows?
He
Uh,
might be our fullback. I don't know, but that's all I got.
all right.
And
What about base? What's the next one? Baseball?
NBA.
NBA number 40, and I don't know. That's a weird number.
Sean Kemp
Oh yeah,
for the
big. He.
Supersonics.
Yep.
We got you should know him. Udonis Haslam
Yeah.
for the
For the Heat.
Heat,
Hmm.
and then Harrison Barnes. Where is it right now for the San Antonio Spurs?
He's played for about every team in the league. All right. Then what we got?
I
Baseball.
got two on baseball.
Baseball number 40. I got. Oh,
I'm pretty sure this guy's a big name.
okay. Who?
Bartolo Colon
Yeah, Bartolo Colon was a
for
pitcher.
for
Yeah,
the Mets. Kind
crazy.
of
He
big
was
guy, right?
crazy. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then Madison Bumgarner
Okay, yeah. He
for
was
the
also a
Giants.
pitcher for the Giants. Yeah, lefty.
And then I have one for NHL.
One for I'm guessing that's going to be a goalie.
I don't know. I don't know
What's
if
his
he's a go.
name?
Henrik Zetterberg. Henrik
I
Zetterberg
don't know who that is. What
plays for
position
the.
he
He played
play?
his whole career for the Red Wings.
Red Wings. Yeah,
So
that
I don't know.
I don't know if that was. I don't think that was a goalie. All
Yeah.
right, well there we have it. So let's give a quick update. The Waxahachie Indians boys team and girls softball doing really well, but boys are won the first round of. Hey Tammy, welcome. We know that they won the first round against Bryson Byron High School, and they
They won.
to third yeah. So Thursday they played the second round against Saxe. I believe it's Saxe. They are 32-2 or 33-2, that being the Indians, and undefeated uh, throughout these playoffs and in their own division, district, whatever you call it. They're doing really well. So we'll keep an eye on them. And I think one of those games is at, I know one of those games is at Richards Park. I believe that's on Thursday. So more to come from us. Uh, we'll give you an update next Tuesday on how well they did. We've got the Stars. They're home for the summer. The Stars are so disappointing for me. I mean, we had high hopes. They were playing well for there for some time, but they just don't have an identity. And
And we
it's not
fired DeBoer and all
we
that.
fired the board because he couldn't make it past the conference finals, which we'd been in 3 years in a row, and then can't even get it past the first
Yeah.
round. And nothing, I'm not blaming anything on Jamie Benn, but Jamie Benn, I think is probably going to retire. He should, but the face of we just don't have much of a face of our team. The Stars just don't have a. What are we known for? I don't
Yeah.
really know, but there are all kind of trade rumors floating around. Uh, what's the guy out in Edmonton, the Star?
Oh, McDavid.
McDavid possibly coming here, but we'd have to give up Jason Robertson.
I think Jason Robertson isn't under contract
Yeah,
this next year,
to
so
get the team players we need for this team, we're gonna have to give up some beloved players here.
yeah.
And then we got the Rangers. They open a series in New York against the Yankees tonight. They haven't been playing so well, so I think they've lost at least two or three in a row.
Luckily, we're in a horrible division.
Yes, we're in our average at best division, and Cowboys will be kicking the dirt here in a couple of
You see
months.
Caleb Downs, any pictures of him at rookie camp wearing number 18? It's probably not his number,
Really,
but they had a rookie camp and he
that
was.
would be his number if he's wearing it.
You think so?
Yeah,
At rookie camp?
yeah.
You really think so? Okay.
I don't think he would be wearing because they're going to want jersey sales and all of that. So
Okay.
people are wanting to know.
18, going from number 2 to 18.
Yeah, he might have worn that. You never know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be exciting. And then did we miss a team?
The
Mavs. Oh yeah,
Mavericks hired a new team president and alternate governor in Masai Ujiri.
Jerry.
So
Yeah,
it's a big step forward from going
is.
from
And
Nico and
that's
all that.
Sammy's column for tomorrow is
Yeah.
about you, Jerry. Uh, Terry says Bill Bates. Yep, I remember
40.
that now
I was
that you
trying
bring
to
it.
look for number 40s that play for the Cowboys, but none of my sources were on it today.
Bill Bates was just a dynamite player. He was loved here too.
Yeah.
Hard man, hard hitting. All right. So today I'm gonna, as I mentioned at the top, I want to share with you some things that are going on and give you an update. Uh, and I guess the point of it all, beyond the obvious, which is to right what are serious, deep-seated wrongs, in my opinion. This is all my opinion. Your opinion may be different. There are people who disagree with me, particularly those in the judicial system here. But I think any average person who's willing to step back and say, okay, let me fully understand the context of this story and what happened, how other like cases were handled by the same people, what's going on here. And let me first say that I will tell you that I don't mind sharing this with you. My dad, when I was a little boy, my sister was a little girl. I'm talking single digits. My parents divorced. My mother had a challenge with alcohol and actually had caused an accident with alcoholism because of alcohol, drunk driving. This would have been back in the 60s. And in that crash, there was one fatality. And uh, I don't really remember because I was so young, and neither of my parents are here anymore for me to ask questions of and nor my grandparents, so I can't get the details. But I don't remember any sentencing or her time away. But I do know that my sister and I lived with my dad, and from that point forward, so I understand the pain and the challenges that come from those occurrences in life. And there isn't a single part of me that wants to look the other way, push it aside, or suggest that anybody that has caused harm because of alcohol or drugs that should be ignored. I do believe in redemption. I believe God is all about redemption, and I believe that without redemption, we're all in trouble. So redemption is a key aspect of my life, and as such, I believe that most people save those who repeatedly do the same thing. So, somebody that drinks and drives repeatedly, and repeatedly would be you get caught drinking and driving and you are arrested and put in jail or whatever, or put on probation, whatever case may be, you don't get perpetual redemption. I mean, redemption is about repentance, and you correct your wrongs and walk the right path. So I'm not here to say that we should put it aside and say, oh, it's a mistake somebody made. So all the consequences of the victims, all the trouble that created should be ignored, or just become apathetic about it. On the other hand, I do believe that people, in the essence of true redemption, deserve a chance at redemption. So, having said that, let me just set up the context for you, and again remind you that I'm trying to look at this and have been working very hard to make sure that I'm being held to the highest standard, meaning that I don't do what I just said, which is to push it aside because I happen to like somebody involved in this, or go after somebody because I dislike them. Actually, what I'm trying to say is that when we do that, we can commit serious wrongs and cause a lot of harm. So, that all said, I want to give you a context of cases, uh, some of which are here in the either in Ellis County and or in the Metroplex, but also maybe one across the country, of people who have been impaired behind the wheel of an automobile while that automobile is moving and have caused serious uh, accidents, death, serious injury, victims, all that stuff. All right. So just let me give you those. And then I want to ask you to consider what I'm grappling with, and that is what in the heck is going on? We have our tarnation segment, which we're trying to actually brand more and do more with. Some of what I'm about to share with you falls in that. What in tarnation is going on? And why is it going on, particularly in our own community? So let me just share with you a few names and a few um, cases. And some of these names you may know, some you may not. Let me start with Ethan Couch. Ethan Couch was in the Metroplex in Tarrant County, I believe. In 2013, Ethan Couch was stone cold drunk. I don't know what his limit or his breathalyzer reflected, but he was extremely drunk. Ethan Couch was either 16 or 18. I believe he was 16. Uh, but I know he was a teenager with a license and could drive. He, driving drunk, killed four people and injured even more than that in an accident. And I remember this being reported in the news. I wasn't yet living here, but I remember I was in Tuscaloosa. But I remember the reports on this serious, awful accident where this kid is behind the wheel of a truck and he is drunk and he runs over four people, hits four people who died. Again, there were more injured than that, but Ethan Couch, that's what he did. Ethan Couch ended up getting 10 years probation. Today, Ethan Couch is a free man. He killed four people uh, in a drunk driving accident. Today, he is a free man because of the sentence he was given in uh, in either the Tarrant County system or Dallas County. I believe it was Tarrant County. And today, he walks free. Henry Ruggs, many of you know that I'm a big Alabama football fan. Henry Ruggs, this is a national case, but Henry Ruggs was a star wide receiver for the Crimson Tide about, oh, in the time since I've been here in Waxahachie, so the past decade. He was, according to Nick Saban, a bright young man, very responsible, very smart, so on and so forth. Did well, not didn't have any problems with Alabama. Was drafted by the Los Angeles Raiders, which became the Las Vegas Raiders, Oakland Raiders, whatever they have been all these years. But the Vegas Raiders in 2000. This was have been in 2000 since COVID. So I believe it's 2021. Henry Ruggs, as a member of the Las Vegas Raiders, was driving his Corvette at dark hours of the early morning, 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, down the streets of Las Vegas at 156 miles an hour. Henry Ruggs rear-ended in that accident. He rear-ended a young lady and her dog were in the vehicle, just the two of them. It blew up, exploded, killed both the young lady and her dog. And Henry Ruggs was arrested. Henry Ruggs got a 10-year prison sentence. He is eligible for parole in August. So in 3 months, he will be eligible for parole. And I wouldn't be surprised. I'm not going to, bet on anything having to do with somebody's parole because it's far more serious than that. But it's my guess that he will actually be paroled and have a chance to go on and live his life and to be a productive member of a football team. That's my guess. I think he'll be given an opportunity for redemption, but we shall see. But he killed a woman and her dog, and got a 10-year sentence, but he's eligible for parole in 3 months. Let me tell you about Michael Holla. You may know this name because it happened here in Ellis County. This was in 2021. Michael Holla, who was the contract attorney for the city of Ferris, and I don't know Michael Holla. I don't, other than what's happened here. I don't have any reason to dislike him, or I don't have any reason to like him. I just don't know who he is because we don't do much in Ferris, if any, coverage in Ferris. But Michael Holla was late for a city council meeting one evening, and because he was late, and I assumed he maybe a bit panicked or paranoid or concerned or fearful, whatever the words you wanted to use to describe somebody who's being late, but probably a bit frantic. So he wanted to get to the city council meeting as quickly as he could. At the same time, he was trying to get to city council meeting. There was a family of five who were playing basketball at a local school there on the playground. It was after school, it was in the evening, early evening. Uh, the father was 36 years old, and the mother, I assume, was about that age. The kids were, one of them was five, and the others were somewhere in that neighborhood. But they were just playing basketball as a family and having a good time. The Michael Holla, the attorney, decided in order to get to the meeting on time, he would drive fast. He was driving 90 plus miles an hour through the streets of Ferris. The family, the dad and 5-year-old boy, 36-year-old dad, 5-year-old son, well, the whole family decided they would go home again at the same time. The mother and two of the children were lagging a bit behind, but and they could see in front of them, could see where the dad and the 5-year-old were. And so as the dad and 5-year-old crossed the street, Michael Holla, again at 90 something miles an hour, hit the 36-year-old dad and the 5-year-old son, killing them both. So we have right here in our own county a case in which a man who uh, he was charged with voluntary manslaughter, I believe was the charge. He was driving erratically and trying to get to a city council meeting, killed two people. Michael Holla was, it took 14 months charges to be filed against Michael Holla. He was charged with manslaughter and ended up, he bonded out when they arrested him. He bonded out that night. Ultimately, Michael Holla received probation for that accident. Again, two people were killed. He received probation from the same uh, folks who are active in our court system today, and and he's a free man. He's always been a free man, just on probation. Uh, Yesterday afternoon, I met with a sweet lady and a loving mom, hurting mom, a mom who will spend the balance of her life making sure that the wrongs that were committed against her daughter, uh, she will continue to fight for them, as many parents that we see in the national news whose children or somebody in their family was killed, and the case wasn't handled properly, or for all sorts of reasons they to go public. They end up talking to Congress or other legislators about laws and such. Um, this is one of those examples of it. But I spent about an hour and a half with Carla yesterday afternoon and learned a whole lot about the event that took her daughter's life. This would have been in January of 2019 in Ferris, ironically, where Heather Hansen was up going to work at 7, just call it 7:30 in the morning, and was driving 80 miles an hour. And I believe the speed limit where she was driving 80 miles an hour was 65 or 70 miles an hour with a speed limit. She came upon a car that in that same speed zone was driving 18 miles an hour, driven by a guy who had traces of methamphetamines in his system, who had 3 hours earlier, which would have been around 4:30 in the morning, uh, been given a ticket for speeding at, I believe it was 90 something miles an hour. So, and the truck that he was in wasn't registered. I don't believe he had a license. There was nothing legal about anything related to this guy in this incident. Uh, but he was, in this case, he was rear-ended by Hannah because if anybody, you could say it was 60 miles an hour. The result would have been the same in terms of not being able to stop quick enough to hit a vehicle, to avoid hitting a vehicle. It was going 18 miles an hour. I don't mind sharing. Well, I'll hold up on that till later. But 18 miles an hour is as much a infraction as going 80 miles an hour is in a zone that calls for much, much, much greater speed than 18 miles an hour. So somebody going 18 miles an hour has either got issues, mental issues, physical issues, is on some kind of drug. If something's not right, nobody drives that slow in a speed zone that calls for much greater speed. So Heather, and I didn't know Heather, but Heather rear-ended that truck. The truck then continued down the road for I don't know how many yards or feet. The driver of the truck, who had a rap sheet at the time, was not injured and it lives today. I believe he lives in Houston. Heather died, um, and as a result of her injury. And so uh, the gentleman driving the vehicle 18 miles an hour was not charged with anything. And again, he is a free man living in Houston. So I give you those to serve as context of the Hannah Dillard case, where Hannah Dillard in 2017, after having come home from a mission trip on a mercy ship, as they're called, where she spent years traveling the world taking care of pediatric uh, injuries, malformities, deformities, kids who were sick. That was her life. That's what she did. And so she had come home that weekend in September, I believe it was. Let me just make sure I have that. I want to tell you that for sure. Uh, in October of 2017, Hannah came home or was home. She was celebrating a party with her family out of Tulsa, but here in the Metroplex, they were in Dallas. Hannah admitted all of this in court. Hannah had time with some her family and some friends, but later after the dinner with a friend, and during which she was drinking wine coolers. Hannah was having uh, she was not married, but she was having relationship problems with her boyfriend, who happened to live here in Waxahachie. So, to make a real long story short, in terms of what happened, Hannah drank enough wine coolers that she became inebriated, pretty pretty inebriated, and headed from Dallas to Waxahachie to see if she could confront or work things out with her boyfriend. She was so drunk that she ended up on the wrong side of 35 between Red Oak and Waxahachie. She was on in this northbound lane going south. She ended up getting off at the Quick Trip on Butcher Road there at the interstate. Used to, before they redesigned it all, you could get off there and get gas and then get back on the interstate. When she did what she did when she stopped at Quick Trip, she got back on the 35, again, going in the wrong direction. She was drunk. She hit a car of 5 African American SMU students head on. And so the accident was violent, it was serious, and there were injuries. Hannah wasn't injured that much. The 5 people in the car in various ways were injured. The most serious victim ended up with serious injuries, and so that led that then created this whole process. So Hannah was was bonded out, and over the next 4 years was living under certain restrictions, bond restrictions, whatever you might call that, where she had to report to a parole officer or a probation officer or whatever, again, whatever they're called. I don't really know, and I'm not going to get caught up on that. But Hannah had to do certain things, or she couldn't do certain things during that 4 year period between when the accident occurred and when she uh, was actually uh, she was charged and pled guilty, uh, and so she was in essence a bit free. She still had restrictions, but free. So you get to when she went to trial, she because she pled guilty, there was a sentencing only trial. So for 3 days, they went over everything in a court of law. They being her attorneys and the prosecution here in Ellis County, and ended up the what's so interesting, and one of the things that's so interesting to me, and it's a bit offensive, is that if you talk to the prosecutors or the DA, they will say, well, the jury gave Hannah the sentence they gave Hannah. The truth is that the jury didn't come up with that sentence. It was recommended to them by the DA at the time and the prosecutors. And I'm going to tell you who those are here in just a few. I'm going to name names so you know who we're talking about here. And so they recommended, after days of listening to testimony about the victims, about Hannah, about the accident, about the injuries, and that sort of thing. There were certain things kept out of court by the judge. Again, I'll tell you who that was here in just a minute. There were things about Hannah's past in terms of the good that she'd done in this world that were kept out of the being of testimony. The jury could not and did not hear that. So the jury essentially, at the end of the day, the jury was able to hear, because of the prosecutor's approach, just how bad a person Hannah was. Matter of fact, I've read every word of the transcript, and I've met with the prosecutor since then, and actually confronted one who said Hannah, literally said Hannah went out of her way to kill somebody. Uh, Usually, if we hear that, just tell me what in your own mind what you think. So if I tell you, they went out of their way to kill that person, what are you going to refer to that as? Most people think of that as murder, but that's what the prosecutor. Just that's one tiny example of what this prosecution team did to portray Hannah to the jury, and the Hannah I've gotten to know and her family is nothing like that. And so what did the prosecution recommend? The prosecution recommended a year of a sentence of 12 years. This is after Hannah had been offered an 8 year plea deal, which she rejected. Her attorneys were convinced that she would get probation. Again, let me tell you, Ethan Couch killed 4 people in a drunk driving accident, got probation. Michael Holla, driving erratically, out of control, hit a dad and his young son and killed them both, got probation. uh, the guy who caused the accident with Heather Hansen uh, didn't receive any didn't be wasn't charged with anything. Although I have access to a notebook that's 6 inches thick with all kinds of proof as to just how culpable this dude was. But he received probation, and then about the Henry Ruggs. 3 of those things I just cited to you were done here in Ellis County. Henry Ruggs is just an example I wanted to throw out to you on a national scale, because in our research we found that across the country that Hannah's case stands almost alone in terms of the sentencing for somebody in a first-time offense, non-fatal DWI or DUI. Uh, her sentence stands alone as by far the most severe. There are, as I've told you, there are people who have done the same thing, killed others, and got far less sentence, in including probation. And so that's what drew our attention, the son and my interest in following up and trying to figure out what's going on here. So Hannah uh, was was charged, or was sentenced to 12 years because that prosecution team with Grace Pandithuri and co-prosecutor Sherry Roeder, both of them, I've read every word of the transcript, both of them portrayed Hannah as the devil and the victims as angels. the victims, as I've written to one of the victims after she wrote me, I said, her life is as important as anybody's. What happened to her is as um, important again as what happened to anybody else. I'm not saying Hannah, nor is Hannah saying it, nor is any member of her family. No one's saying that Hannah uh, didn't do anything and she shouldn't be held responsible. Matter of fact, in addition to the 12-year sentence that Hannah was given, Hannah also has paid almost $1.3 million in restitution. All five of those victims received large sums of money. Again, that's not to the victim. Their injuries are still there, or were still there, and most have carried on. I think all have carried on with their lives, but they all got from Hannah what Hannah felt like she should give or pay as a result of her accident. And what she did, she recognizes that and accepts it. But these two prosecutors, Grace and Sherry, went for the throat, and they got it in the meeting I had with them, as I've written about before, and as I've told many national folks and others who will continue to hear it. When I was asking them in a meeting, why did you go from 8 years in a plea deal to 12 years as the sentence you wanted the jury to give her? And there really wasn't, the nonsense that it happens often and so on and so forth. That doesn't fly for me. It's obvious that they were mad that she didn't take the 8-year plea deal, so they wanted to stick it to her with a 12-year plea deal, stick it to her not only for rejecting their 8-year plea deal, but for other reasons. While I was describing that or asking that, Sherry Roeder, again, the co-prosecutor, was shaking her head, and I could see her do that. And I stopped and said, "Why are you shaking your head?" And she said, "Because we actually offered her a 4-year plea deal." That's exactly what she said to me in a meeting. We actually offered her a 4-year plea deal. Not we think we did, not we heard there was a 4-year plea deal. They're the prosecution. They wouldn't have heard of that. They either did it or they didn't do it. She's the one who offered the information. I had no idea that to even think of suggesting that a 4-year or some made up plea deal was offered and then use that as some sort of defense or uh, tactic to help Aunt Hannah. They told me, and she said it in front of Grace Pandithuri, her co-prosecutor, who is now the judge in the same courtroom. And also in the room when that was said was the current VA, Lindy Beatty, who I happened to endorse when she ran a couple of years ago. So it's all very odd to me, and there's more to come on that because the way it's being handled is totally wrong, totally unethical. These folks are now lying to cover their asses, excuse my expression, and that's not acceptable. So therein lies the context. Hannah Hannah, compared to two, three other cases within a 50-mile radius of Waxahachie, in which people were killed. Hannah got by far the most serious sentence of 12 years. And let me tell you why it's 12 years. This will give you another idea as to just how sick and evil this is. In the state of Texas, if the sentence is less than 10 years, any defendant, the state offers at any time during that sentence a chance at probation, or the defendant or the person given that sentence is eligible for probation. On the first day of the 10th year, uh, that no longer applies. So if it's a sentence over 10 years, then the defendant gets the only thing they get is a chance at parole when it's the halfway point of the sentence. So in Hannah's case, it at 12 with a 12-year sentence, she gets an opportunity for parole at 6 years. All right. The prosecution knew that. Certainly they knew that. That's why they went for 12 years. And again, 12 years, what is there's no precedent for 12 years. The average, as we've done all this research over the past year and a half, the average uh, boundaries or the I guess the what do you, I don't forget what a judge calls it or those in the judicial system, but there are recommendations or guidelines for sentencing 2 to 10 years and far less. I believe it's $10,000 in restitution. I would assume that was per victim. So in this case, $50,000 in retribution from Hannah. Uh, she gets 12 years and paid over $1 million. So Hannah Hannah's case again stands alone. So what have we done about that? Well, we've done a lot. First, I had to come to the clear understanding that people that I once liked, once admired, have supported in all their endeavors of life, uh, those that I knew about, most notably those who run for office. Grace ran for judge in the same courtroom where she tried Hannah's case and countless others. At the time that Hannah's case was being tried, the judge in the courtroom was Cindy Ermatinger. I've known Cindy for a while and have always appreciated who she was. I don't anymore. I don't with Grace. I don't with Sherry Roeder. Sherry Roeder, in the meeting that I had with her and Grace and Linda Beatty, made a point to tell me how she came to Jesus. And I was pretty impressed by it. And yet, then I find out that she did what she said, what she had to say about Hannah, about any defendant, like Hannah, who first time offense and was willing to do whatever it took within the limits of the law to make it right. Uh, Said that she went out of her way to kill somebody as a drunk driver. Uh, and then Linda Beatty, I did a lot to support Lindy, when she ran against Ann Montgomery. I think Ann Montgomery, who was the DA in Ellis County from 2020 to 2020 into 2023, I believe, or 24, I think it's fair to say was the worst DA in the history of Ellis County, and uh, create an environment in which these sorts of things happen. But I can't lay all the blame at Ann Montgomery's feet. The fist rots from the head down. That's true. But you got Grace Pendathuri, who often speaks of her faith and who often speaks of the attributes of being a Christian. Some of those attributes include mercy and grace and redemption and understanding. Uh, Grace told me directly that she had become very close. When she was a prosecutor, she became very close to the victims, particularly one victim. And that's a serious. Imagine being a defendant and you know that the prosecutor and maybe to some extent the judge have become close to the victim. What kind of trial are you going to get? What kind of sentence are you going to get? Well, this is what happens. Uh, Cindy Ermatinger knew and knows better than to allow a runaway prosecution team to go berserk and to essentially paint a defendant as a devil so as to then warrant the kind of sentence that they ended up giving Hannah. It's a common tactic with people. I mean, I there's no doubt that people that dislike me, and there are several because of the things I've stood for and write about, uh, it's easier to criticize me and jump me when you paint me or believe I'm the devil himself. So I get that kind of psychology, but what I don't understand is why anyone claiming to be a Christian, one, believes that this is a proper sentence given the context and given the law, and number two, ignores the notion or the idea or ideal of mercy, because mercy is a bedrock piece of the foundation of being a Christian. And God even tells us that the mercy we bestow is the same level of mercy we're going to get. And yet we have we've given Pandathuri, Sherry Roeder really doesn't have much say in it right now, but we've given plenty of opportunities for Grace Pandathuri, Linda Beatty, Cindy Ermatinger, although Cindy's retired now. We've given them all an opportunity, more than one opportunity, more than two opportunities to say, look, we do believe in retrospect that this is an over sentencing, way over sentencing, and that Hannah has served her sentence. She's now served going on 4.5 years in an Oklahoma prison. And the governor of Oklahoma, who we met with privately back in almost a year ago, July 1st of last year, in Oklahoma City in his office, said although Hannah's in Oklahoma in a prison, that's so she can be closer to her aging parents who live in Tulsa. Uh, the governor of Oklahoma said I would pardon, parole, whatever, mute. I don't know what the exact proper legal term is, but I would I would set Hannah free in a heartbeat. If we can get this case transferred to Oklahoma, I would set her free in a heartbeat. She has paid her price in every way possible. And now there is nothing to be gained from Hannah sitting in prison. That isn't to suggest that the victims can, I, I'm not going to blame them if they still feel uh, uh, or have an essence of vindication. I actually told the victim who was injured the most, the victim who Grace Penethuri has become close to, and when she wrote me, I wrote her back and said, "Look, I think if you can embrace the idea of forgiveness, you and Hannah can become close, become an incredible story, and go on the road together and change lives all over the world, not just in this country." So that's that would be my vision for them. But because we have these people in Ellis County's judicial system, and those people, I'm going to name names and continue. Uh, Complaints are being filed. Everything we can do right now. There's a habeas corpus, writ of habeas corpus has been filed. It required all of these people to provide affidavits. On those affidavits, when the topic came up about, did you guys ever offer a 4-year plea deal? They are playing, they're not playing dumb. They're being evil. And I have texted Grace and said, shame on you. Shame on you for listening to your co-prosecutor say we offered her a 4-year plea deal to me, and then try to wiggle out of that in an affidavit. Shame on Sherry Roeder for doing the same thing. Shame on Cindy Ermatinger for doing the same thing, and shame on Lindy for uh, for knowing full well what I was told in that meeting and defending it, and not as a DA standing up for what is right. Um, it's troubling, and so I can't stop. So we met with the governor of Oklahoma, with the attorney general of Oklahoma. Uh, the idea has been for them to communicate with the same levels here in Texas to get the jurisdiction of this moved to Oklahoma, and where and in which Hannah would be freed. Hannah got married last November, November the 28th, in prison. So we have pictures of that day of her and her husband in what they could make uh, as a wedding. And so Hannah was dressed in her prison orange. Mike was dressed in a sport coat and such, and family members were allowed to be there. It was brief. Mike had become sick, and Mike was a young man in his 40s. He and Hannah uh, wanted to get married. Mike particularly wanted to get married. They were hoping to have children. Uh, that sickness that Mike had was stage 4 stomach cancer. 2 weeks ago from yesterday, Mike passed away at home under the care of hospice after having been to MD Anderson in Houston and all countless other doctors. Mike uh, and they're both of them, the first marriage passed away. So Hannah has lost her husband as well, and was not allowed to attend the funeral. The funeral was not allowed to be videoed into where Hannah was in the prison. Hannah will be able to watch a video of it someday. She wrote a letter to Mike, and that was read at the funeral. And Hannah's dad, Gene Dillard, was spoke and gave the eulogy at Mike's funeral. The question then remains for me is, well, how much more do you guys want? So when we think about, pardon me while I take a breath. Okay. So we have right here in our own county, we have a case where another attorney driving 90 something miles an hour in the streets of Paris. Imagine just the streets of Waxahachie driving 95 miles an hour. Just imagine in your mind or wherever you are what that would look like. You can't, it's hard to even imagine a car going that fast. Let's say down our 77, our main road, which is ironically called Paris. Imagine a car going 95 miles an hour with the traffic lights and all the other stuff. Uh, or down Brown Street, 95 miles an hour, where there's Northside School and churches and things like that. Just imagine that in your mind. This guy did it. And this guy killed a 36 years old and a 5-year-old boy. He hit them with his truck killed them. This same group, it was a different judge, a visiting judge out of Dallas who oversaw the case against Michael Halla, but it was the same prosecutors who watched as one of their colleagues in the industry was given probation despite having killed two people. Then think about Heather Hansen, who, uh, whether she was speeding or not, that wasn't the cause of her death. The cause of her death, my guess, although I'm just guessing, is that if she were going 65 miles an hour and came up on a car going 18 miles an hour in a zone, speed zone of 65 or 70 miles an hour, is gonna likely suffer the same injuries that led to her death. Uh, it's the same people involved in our county in a case where the man who was impaired, who had just been given the ticket 3 hours earlier, who was had a rap sheet, who was responsible for the accident that Heather found herself in and who died as a result. Uh, it's the same people who watched him walk. It's the same people who would say to the Hansons, Mr. and Mrs. Hanson, we don't have body cameras. We don't have this. We don't have that. Well, lo and behold, again, I've got videos, and maybe at some point I'll show you some of these, but I've got videos of the crash scene, body camera videos, other testimony, other facts, other uh, pieces of information related to Heather's crash. And and yet it didn't matter. And so I think it's legitimate for me, as in the role that I play here. And frankly, I don't, doesn't matter what to me what any of these people have to say about me. And I'm going to mention this to you before I go on. In 2019, many of you may remember there was a Amber Alert that came out on a Friday morning early. I'll never forget it. Friday morning early, we get an Amber Alert that a 6-year-old little boy here in Waxahachie was kidnapped, taken by his mother from his school, or never showed up at school on that Friday morning, and uh, and then later, within the next 24 hours, we find out that that mother had committed murder suicide, uh, poisoned her 6-year-old son. Ollie Wiedemann is the name. Precious, precious little boy who was really on. His dad was the had custody of Ollie, but the visitation and all that enabled his mom to in this case do what she did. That visitation in six weeks earlier, that visitation which had been required to be supervised, that supervision was lifted by a judge in this. I'm not going to name him because it's a little bit more. There's more to that. At some point, maybe I will. But this is another guy that I had great respect for and I liked. Um, but he lifted those restrictions. And then 6 weeks later, that mother takes that little boy and forces him, presumably, to ingest sulfur and a concoction of poison that kills him. She does the same thing. It kills her. They're found on the top level of the parking deck at the courthouse, not the historic courthouse, but the other courthouse. Um, and a- And so it's another occurrence. I'm not looping or grouping all this together, but it is another example of what is going on. So I believe, look, many of you know my mother was murdered in 1991. My mother was murdered by a guy that we knew who he was, and he was prosecuted. I watched both prosecution and defense attorneys play serious games in that trial in 1991. I watched it. And at that point, I became deeply offended by the way defense attorneys behave. Uh, I also learned that prosecution can play games as well. And so I've always wondered just how many games are being played. In this case, I think sadly, these aren't games. They are serious matters that have been committed by people in our own community. So we're not going to stop. We're going to pursue. There's nothing we can do to bring Heather Hansen back. There's nothing we can do to bring back a dad and his son who were killed after playing basketball with their family in an afternoon in 2021, and there's nothing we can do. Michael Holla has gone on to live his life. Ethan Couch has gone on to live his life. Henry Ruggs sits in a jail cell just like Hannah does, but has the opportunity, despite having a 10-year sentence, despite doing far more damage than Hannah did, has the opportunity to be paroled in a couple of months. And then there's Hannah, uh, who we can do something about. And people will say, well, you just happen to like Hannah's family and all that. I didn't know Hannah's family from Adam's house cat until February of 2025, at which time we were contacted to see if we would look into this. We're contacted often by folks who want to see if they can get a watchdog media to help them discover the truth. And matter of fact, the Hanson family reached out. It might have been last year, the year before, to our newsroom. I did not know how in depth they had gotten on on Heather's case. The person who rear-ended another guy and died. And so I'm disappointed that we didn't go deeper and we get more serious about it. But now that I fully know, at least her side of it, I want to pursue it and find out what else we can do to help in her case. That's a grieving mom and dad who deserve to be heard. And if you're a DA, I don't care if it was the DA before Ann Montgomery or DA after Ann Montgomery, doesn't matter to me who the DA is. Just listen to these people and try to offer some degree of compassion and empathy. To refer to Mr. Dillard, um, the way that Grace Pandafuri, Sherry Roeder, and this group in Ellis County referred to him as things like he got on the stand and just quoted scripture. Well, he, as though that's a wrong thing to do. I just don't understand. It's a grieving dad, and yet he and his family are made to look like hellions by a prosecution team that wants to do as much damage to that family as they can. And I'll tell you right now, Grace, if you and Sherry and Cindy, if you're watching it, Lindy, you achieved what you wanted to. They are hurting people. And now that Mike has passed away, the hurt has gotten deeper, if that were ever possible in the first place. So you've accomplished what you set out to accomplish. And your relationship with the victim does not allow you to decide on whatever ethically, shouldn't allow you to just pick what sentence you want. That's why there's conflict of interest, and that's why uh, we need responsible people in office. So what do we do now? So we keep going. Again, we have a habeas corpus in the appellate system. I have asked God to allow me to be able to testify in that case. I had to fill out an affidavit, and I told the truth, just as I have told the truth in all of this. And so I hope that I get to sit before a judge and tell them the truth. Vicky, please also remember and keep in mind that mother that she's talking about, the mother with uh, Ollie Wiedemann, who committed murder suicide, had mental illness. That is true, and it's rather obvious. I don't mean this about Vicky, but if you hear of a case where a mother has killed a child of 6 years old or any child, you're going to assume, and you should, that there's mental illness involved because there are other cases like this. But this one has the element where that which was provided to validate that mental illness was ostensibly it was ignored, so much so that the restrictions on her to be with her child, be with Ollie unsupervised, were lifted. And then we saw what happened less than 2 months later. So that's my problem. It isn't so much, I don't, again, people who have mental illness deserve compassion and deserve help and should get help. But judges who make stupid decisions, particularly those that end up in, like with Hannah, in cases where there's over sentencing because of dislike or hatred or whatever, vindication, or who uh, lift restrictions either because they didn't look into it fully or were just not aware of how serious I don't know. I don't have any idea, but I do know that there are consequences. So what do we do now? We keep going. And, as I'm 64 years old, be 65 here in a couple of months. And as it happens with all of us in life, things begin to become in better perspective, clearer perspective. We might slow down a bit, although I haven't really slowed down that much. Um, but I have removed myself from boards and positions of leadership within the community and activities. I don't go to everything that we used to go to all the time, and partly because I want to enjoy. Not that I haven't enjoyed, but I really want to enjoy what time, the fourth quarter of life. I also have put these cases, with Hannah being the top, at the very top, because I'm not going to stop until either the folks here are totally exposed and held to account, uh, and Hannah is free. I'm not going to stop. And I'll stop if the good Lord decides to take me home, but I'm not going to stop. And to the extent that they think I'm wrong, then too bad. There are times whenever people who are being held under the spotlight will call me or call the media or whomever all kinds of names, but that's when uh, you're doing the right job and a good job. It's the old thing about David Hill, our former mayor, and my friend used to say, if you throw a stick into a pack of dogs, the one that yelps is the one that got hit. And so when we pursue these efforts and we try to right these wrongs or expose these wrongs, those that yelp the loudest are those who are likely to be guilty. So I say to Cindy Ermatinger, to Grace Pandithuri, to Sherry Roeder, to Linda Beatty, and others involved in this Hannah Dillard case, uh, you have a chance really to set this right, and uh, that chance is all yours. I hope for your sake and for the soul of your sake of your soul that you will say enough. We've gotten enough out of this, and it's time to let her live her life and impact more children across the world who are struggling. Um, because we are going to continue this fight. And my goal is, again, to see Hannah be home with her family and to expose corrupt judges and prosecutors who I once cared for and liked and respected. All that's gone because of the way that you have treated Hannah Dillard. All right. So I appreciate your comments. I'm sure I'll get a lot of questions and such after this. I'm sorry for rambling, but there's a lot to share with you, and I'm passionate about it and believe that we're witnessing a corrupt judicial system, not throughout all of it, because there's some mighty fine judges and prosecutors in this city, in this county. But those I've mentioned have a long way to go before they should be respected and voted back in. And those elections are coming up, and we'll be sure to make sure you remember this and that we look for better people to do a better job. So, with that, thank you for being with us. We will be back next Tuesday. Thursday is a National Day of Prayer, which I will be attending at Pathway Church and speaking on behalf of the media, praying for the media. So we won't have a show on Thursday, but we'll be back next Tuesday. Until then, know how much you mean to us. We appreciate you. This is Grit and Good News. I'm Scott, and this is my precious son, Sammy. Thank you for being here today. Goodbye.